Most people who doubt you because they can never see themselves doing what you are trying to do. David Goggins. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Podnuts Pro. I am your host, Marvin Bee, and tonight we are supposed to be joined by two people, but it looks like we lost one of our guests right as we were starting the show. So hopefully she'll come back on, but I am joined right now by Glen Capen from Defendify. Glen, how are you?
Good. How are you doing tonight?
I am doing good, and if she joins us again, Shanna Utgard, also of Defendify. They are both success managers, and probably over the last 2 weeks, my best friends. I've spent more time with you than I've spent with my wife.
Yeah, no, it's been great getting to know you, and yeah, we've been working together every week, and yeah, so me and Shannon were both excited to do this tonight, and yeah, I'm gonna send her a text to see where she went, but see if we can get her back on too.
All right, the joys of live podcasting. So let me go ahead, and while you're doing that, I will say, folks, thank you for tuning in. If you are watching live or listening, this is Podnuts Pro, your podcast for IT business support. This is a podcast where we help you run your business better, smarter, and faster. We try to share products, stories, and tips. And tonight we are going to do a little bit of everything. As we're waiting for our guests, I do want to say thank you and do just a little bit of housekeeping. We are in December. And first of all, I should say that my December is always different than everyone else's December. Glenn and I were talking before the show. You were having a little bit of coldness up in the state of Maine, correct?
Yeah, we're pretty much the polar opposite of what you guys got today. I think it was 24 degrees, snowing all day. For us seasoned Mainers, it was kind of a mild storm. We'd call it a dusting of snow. It was like 3 or 4 inches. So, but business as like up here, 3 or 4 inches of snow, it's business as usual. People are still driving around. The guy that plows my driveway doesn't even come when it's only 3 or 4 inches. So, just sign of what's to come, I guess.
And yes, the complete opposite here. We almost hit a record high, 89 degrees. That sounds high to most people on a regular basis, but that isn't even close to our high in the summer. And our high in the winter, I believe, was 91. So we were at 89 today, and I changed into shorts because it was so nice. And joy as that is. So as we go through December, I should let people know that there's only a few more podcasts that I will be doing this year. I have an audio podcast that I think I'm recording on Monday. We have another live show next week where we will have Kramer Snugs on the show. And December 22nd will be the last show of the year. That will be the holiday show. And it is going to be, I think, a very fantastic show. There will be several friends of mine that will be popping on and saying hello. We will revisit some of the podcasts from earlier in the year, some of the highs, some of the lows. We will be trying to play Christmas music as well. So that will be our live show and the last of the year. I hope that you all can join us and participate. And even though Amazon has had some issues, the internet has had some issues, I hope that if you are still doing your Christmas shopping, that you head over to Podnuts Pro and click on the Amazon store and do your Amazon purchasing through that link, everything stays the same to you. But if you make a purchase after using my link, the show will get a little bit of kickback, and I can keep bringing you these fantastic shows, more products, more tips, more vendors. And like we said, all in an effort to help you run your business better, smarter, and faster. While you're there, you can also look through the episode guide. You can go back and search for your favorite guest over the year. You can look for topics. And no, Chris, we will not be doing spiked eggnog on the Christmas show. I have equipment that I have to run here, but that doesn't mean that our guest might not be partaking. So that could be happening, but not by me. All right. So I guess that storm up there, Glenn, has kept your
Yeah,
colleague from joining us.
she said the browser stopped connecting the camera and mic, and she's tried 17 times to get back on. So I'm not sure what's going on.
Yes, show friends. We actually did do a pre-show testing here, and she was on and just fine. And I guess she didn't like my music. I'll have to change the show music and see if that does it.
Like I said, she was the rock star. She probably had some demands, and that on the rider, and you didn't put the green M&Ms in the green room for her, and
my staff didn't do their research and didn't have something just right waiting in the green room for her. Stormed out. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So here's what we're going to do tonight, folks. We will be giving you some education here. We're going to talk about a $2.1 million mistake that led to some of the great things that Defendify has done over the last year or so. This is a company that I'm surprised. I may have heard about you guys years ago, but I really didn't have you on my radar until a few months ago. And I finally said, you know what? I got to give these guys a look and see what's going on. And so far, so good. So, Glenn, while we're waiting for Shanna, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your position there at Defendify?
Yeah, sure. So I've been with Defendify for about 2 years. Initially was solely an acquisition, as I kind of learned the platform, and within the last year transitioned more into our partner channel with success management and kind of that side of things. So I have kind of a hybrid role where I am working in acquisition to bring on new partners, but then kind of taking them on the journey and working with them as they implement Defendify into their stack of tools, and making sure that they're successful. So it's a pretty cool role to have. You hear a lot of great stories, you learn a lot, and in the process you see the partners that are using the platform become successful selling it as a solution to their customers, and really kind of get an insider view on what's happening in the industry.
All right. And there's a lot of different components to Defendify. We'll talk about those a little bit later. I don't think she's going to make it back.
She may not. Yeah.
It's all right. You get to be the star of the show.
It's just I'll see what I can do. I can kind of, if you wanted to, I briefly know the story about what happened to Shanna. I think it's kind of a funny story in and of itself.
Well, why don't we go ahead and let's go ahead and do that, because I think that was obviously the first thing that caught my mind when I first heard her on I think she was on a webinar, and she said the story, and I said, okay, it's kind of interesting that somebody would just volunteer that that happened to them, and to be working for a cybersecurity company, although that's not quite the story. So why don't you tell it?
Right. And it may have taken her a little bit of time to be able to kind of own up to the mistake. I don't know if it were me, I'd probably be in hiding for a few months. But at the time, it was well before she was in cybersecurity. She was working for a title company as a paralegal. Obviously, at a title company, money's just flying in and out, and there's a lot of room for error, but also potentially someone convincing you to wire money to an account that is not an authorized account. And that's essentially what happened. She ended up wiring $2.1 million to a cyber attacker. I think that might have ended her career at that office. I'm not sure exactly how it played out. But shortly thereafter, I'm not sure the time frame, she saw one of our co-founders, Rob Simopoulos, giving a talk on cybersecurity. And, you know, being that had happened, it really resonated with her, and she wanted to do her best to help others not make the same mistake that she did. So that's how she found herself here. And thankfully, she hasn't wired any more money to cyber attackers since then. So,
Well, especially since she's been working with you.
Yep.
So how long has she been at the company?
She's, I think, 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So of course, if she does make it back, I will ask her a couple of questions about that. But it's kind of interesting that she did that, and now she works for a cyber company.
Yeah, it kind of a series of unlikely events. You wouldn't. Yeah, I guess it kind of makes sense to some degree. A lot of times, if you can speak to, you know, by experience, people listen. So, you know, I think when you're willing to tell people that, hey, I wired $2.1 million to a cyber attacker, but I'm here to help you, and I can help you prevent, you know, yourself from doing the same thing. I think that resonates with people.
It does. It does. And if you're watching live or watching the replay on the video, I'm actually trying to see if she will come back in by audio, and I'm setting up the phone to, if she's able to do that, that will get her on. So that's what I'm working on, and the joy of live podcasting. So let me flip that over. We'll see if she's able to do that. If she can't connect, there we go. So we are ready if she's able to join us by that. Okay, so let's do this. While we're waiting, let me go ahead and get out some of the commercial stuff that we were going to do later. I'll just go ahead and do it now. And ladies and gentlemen, Hotnuts Pro is presented to you by NetAlly. You need an ally in the networking field. You have heard me over the years, if you've listened to the show, talk about my handheld testers. I've got my bag right back there. All the tools that will help on the front line to discover and diagnose networking issues there. And netally.com is the place that you want to go to check them out. You can also contact me if you ever want to chat with me about the tools and see which one might be good for you, from the Link Sprinter 300 to the big old Etherscope NXG. And Computers Done Right, computersdoneright.com. Great company there in the channel, helping us not only with websites, but computer support, managed services, a Florida man. All right, looks like this might be it. Hang on just a second, folks. Hello? Is this Shanna? Oh, and she hung up. Oh, there we go. Is this the talent? Hang on. Shanna?
I have no idea what just happened there. Hello.
Hello.
There she is.
Well, you know,
I had to make an entrance.
You certainly did. And 5 years of doing this podcast, never had that happen. So thank you, Shanna.
Yes, happy to be the first one. Please, everybody, accept my official resignation from the IT industry. I'm gladly see myself out.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Shanna Utgard, also a success manager over at Defendify. Shanna, we introduced you and told your story. I hope that Glen said it properly.
She probably tells it better.
Probably heard the story.
Yeah. So he talked about the fact,
basically, in a nutshell, I wired 2.1 million to a cyber criminal.
and that was before you worked for this company. So, how long before you?
I was a real estate paralegal.
Yeah.
Yep, and there was a mail away closing on the seller's side of things, and I sent all the documents off. They were all signed. They were sent back. It was just one of those closings that was difficult the whole way through. And we got to the day of closing, and I was like, "Yes, just be over." Sorry, former bosses, but and then last minute we got a wire change, and I, made everything, updated everything, and this is before we had any clear policies in place or any type of cyber training or anything like that, and $2.1 million went out to the, Chase Bank account instead of the Bank of America bank account. There were so many details of the transaction that were referenced in the email itself, and didn't even make it. My spidey senses didn't tingle at all, and I made the change, sent the wire out. Thankfully, we were able to stop it, so there was a happy ending to the story. But one thing I'll never forget for the rest of my life is that heart drop feeling.
That had to be devastating. And how long was it before you were able to tell that story and laugh at yourself about it?
Well, I was able to laugh about it as soon as we were able to stop the wire, because I remember looking at the attorney I worked for at the time and said, "What would we have done if that actually went out?" And he just looked at me and said, "I have no idea." So it's nice to be able to breathe the sigh of relief, and also highlights the importance of having an incident response plan before everything is on fire. But I was able to laugh at it shortly after. But then a couple weeks later, I was at a title insurance seminar. Woo! And I saw the co-founder of Defendify giving a cyber presentation, and I had one of those moments where I was like, whatever this guy is doing, I need to be a part of this, because I never want anybody to feel the way that I felt in that day. So, I kind of used it to propel me. I sent in my resume an obnoxious number of times in a bunch of different ways, and, kind of hunted him down until he hired me.
That had to be interesting. And so you said you kept sending the resume. That was a few weeks after. So how long was it before you left the real estate company and got hired by Defendify?
It was about, I was still working at the real estate company, but then it was about 2 months or so from when I saw that presentation, and they brought me on board. They were still just, really small organization. We started off as a cybersecurity consulting company, and Glen, forgive me if you've already went through any of this. And so they were still like in the really micro business, and then had built the Defendify platform from the cybersecurity consulting practice, and taking everything that they were doing, driving all over Maine and going into these actual organizations and doing risk assessments and running scanning tools and training the team. And they had digitized that. So I kind of came in like right at the ground floor. They didn't even really have a position available yet. So that's why Rob didn't respond to me. And I just figured it was because he didn't open the attachment with my resume in the first email. So then I submitted it every other way I could think of.
All right. Did you tell him in the letter that you were almost a victim and that's why he should hire you, because you could go out and and tell the story from personal experience?
Well, if there is one thing that anybody that ever has to work with me will find out, is that I am very verbose. So I probably said that and 7 other side stories as well, if I remember correctly.
All right. What were you going to say, Glenn? Go ahead, say it.
Oh yeah, no, that's spot on. She's very verbose. I like that. Yeah.
That's a nice way to put it.
Yep.
All right. So let's do this. Shanna, since we can't see you, it'll be interesting, and we'll try to make it to where this works out. And ladies and gentlemen, if you are listening, I will try to clean up the audio as best I can so that Glenn and I sound like we're in a studio and Shanna sounds like she's on the phone. I will see what I can do and make that better. But Shanna, you just you be as verbose as you need to tonight, okay?
Oh, I'll let you have time to reconsider that.
Can't reconsider it. We're live, so here we
Yeah.
are. Here
It's
we
okay.
are.
I will give you a take back seat.
Okay. All right. So let me say this. So yesterday morning, I was listening to a local radio show, and I don't even know how the conversation got started, but for probably a good 2 segments worth, they were stuck talking about phishing, and the phishing that all of us are used to hearing about, the PH, where somehow somebody started with not responding to emails because they just got to the point where if they didn't know the person and there was an attachment, they didn't look at it, they wouldn't open it, they would just automatically delete it. And the radio station started talking about the fact that apparently that became a problem because there was an employee who was deleting emails that were actually from the boss of the radio station. And because the person didn't know who the boss was, they were just deleting the emails, and they got called in to HR because they were trying to figure out, why are you not doing what the owner is asking? And they're like, that's how they found out that this employee was deleting the emails. And so they were talking about, that's a funny thing because part of cyber education is doing all these phishing tests. And it's not like the phishing tests are going to just come out right out and say, hey, we're testing you, click on this link. So I just found that was an interesting story leading up to our conversation today. Phishing is one of your modules that you guys do. So let me just ask you, do you guys have any stories like that you hear about people that as they're doing a phishing test, or the reason that they're looking into Defendify is because of something like this?
All the time. I mean, business email compromise is on the rise. Phishing emails, ransomware being delivered through that. I love to give awareness presentations, and one of the things that I always ask is, how many times people have received an email that says, hey, this is Rob. Are you at your desk? I need a favor, or send me your personal cell phone number. So we have a lot of those types of situations. A lot of people looking for phishing training. We have a lot of people that are using other services for phishing, but it's kind of a manual process. And I always joke and say, they say, oh, I have, such and such a product. And I say, yeah, and I have a gym membership.
So people
definitely do not go.
You don't go. Okay. I was waiting for that punchline to drop.
Yeah, I don't use it, but so it's great if you have a phishing tool, but if you're only launching it, once or twice a year, or you've gotten really busy and moved down to quarterly phishing simulations, you're just getting a new baseline every 3 months. It's not having the desired effect that it should have. My favorite phishing story is that I have actually failed a phishing simulation before. So I talk to a lot of organizations that try to take, a little bit more of the stick approach to phishing. They want to have like a wall of shame or, all these other things. And I say, I eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff all day long. And I've failed a phishing simulation. We're all human. So there's a day where you might come in on a Monday morning under caffeinated. The kids are screaming in the background. You're under a deadline. You haven't even had coffee. You've still got crusties in your eyes. And you're just trying to get something done. And that's when mistakes happen.
Yeah.
So something that I know that I don't know that all insurance companies are doing it, but I know that there are some companies now that are saying that not only do our clients have to have their security requirements upgraded, their network assessments done, their attestations done, but they're requiring that their third-party vendors, which qualifies as their IT provider, also has to God, why am I just going into break fart here? So basically, we have to prove that we're compliant also and we have to go through cybersecurity training. We have to do assessments. We have to do phishing tests. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is how many times do you guys have clients come to you that are basically us, IT providers, MSPs, that are like, we don't need the training.
I would say that I get that some
And I
for
like
sure.
that one.
One of the first things I go through when I bring on a new partner, though, is just explain the importance of protecting yourself first. And, for a lot of reasons. I mean, first of all, it builds credibility. What are you going to tell your client if they ask if are you doing these things? And if you are like, well, no, we're not doing these things, and, they're going to want to know why they have to do it, but you don't. But I think you hit it right on the head of the nail there with, cyber insurance companies. Get Shanna's video.
I don't
I'm
know.
a little nervous to try the video, but is my audio better?
Wow. So I think these third-party assessments are again a big driver there, and MSP should be doing their due diligence and utilizing these tools, doing this training for themselves and their employees as well, not just for credibility, but also protecting themselves. And as these third-party assessments do start coming across their desks, they're going to have those things in place, and it's not going to affect their clients and their clients getting their cyber insurance.
Yep. So of course, that's one of the things that we're doing. So I had already gone through an audit earlier this year for one of my clients that they were saying that, your IT company needs to do this. So we went through all of it and, proved that we're doing it. This was actually HIPAA compliance. So there was a whole bunch of stuff we had to do. Although the one thing we did not have was the ongoing awareness training, which we are going to add now, thanks to you guys. So very interesting. Shanna, since you did the switch over, so ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to this, Shanna has now gone off the phone and back onto the web broadcast here. We can hear her, but not see her. So she's a talking head on the screen. So Shanna, did you catch my question during the transfer?
I did not.
Okay.
This is this is just an embodiment of my life anyway. Like, everything goes sideways. I'm in and out of everywhere. Just, why wouldn't it be?
All right. Well, rather than catch you up to speed, we're going to move on to the next point.
Fair. That is very fair.
Why don't we do this? I heard you talk a while back about going through a digital detox.
Yes.
And how that was an eye-opening experience in your cyber awareness. So tell us a little bit about that.
I actually had this exact conversation this morning with about 100 insurance agents and challenged them to go through this themselves. I'm not very good at New Year's resolutions. I'm the type of person that gets, part of the way through January before it's back to business as usual. So instead of making a resolution that I know I'm just going to break shortly thereafter, one of the things that I did when I first came into this industry, because I, like many other people, had terrible password habits and all of those other, common human behaviors. So coming into this and learning what I know now, I went through a digital detox instead of setting a New Year's resolution. So for an entire year, I just focused on cleaning up my digital life. I got a password manager set up with multi-factor authentication, 2FA, all the things. And then I started going through and changing all of my really valuable accounts first. So, setting up my email with a brand new, password that looks like a toddler got a hold of a keyboard and just gnawed on it for a little bit. And then I enabled multi-factor authentication on all of those really important accounts and started with kind of like the mission critical ones that I definitely wouldn't want to get into the hands of anybody else. And then after that, just periodically as I came across sites, like, for a while I didn't travel. And then last year I decided I was going to quit Christmas and go scuba diving in Mexico for the holidays. So I was starting to log back into some of my travel accounts that were very very dormant, and I would just change all of those passwords as I came across them in my password manager. I also went in and unsubscribed from all kinds of emails that I no longer care about or use, and just like did this whole digital detox and getting everything in tip-top shape.
Now, did you think that it would take you an entire year to do this? And and if not, how long did it actually take you?
For the mission critical accounts, those were done really quickly right off the bat. It was actually a conversation that I had with Rob, our co-founder of the company, immediately. He was like, hey, here's some access to some tools. You want to do this right away. So all the really important ones, I changed them all over. But I'm actually still coming across old accounts that I didn't even know still had the old, I always use Sunshine123 as an example of that, really crappy password that you recycle everywhere. If I get real fancy, I might add an exclamation point on there. But I'm still coming across them, surprisingly. From time to time, I'll be like, oh, this is an old one. It's not popping up in my password manager. Like, let's try the old password. Oh yeah, time to change that one. So it was just more about not putting pressure on myself to do it all at once. It was just as I came across them.
Right. Have you been keeping tally as to how many passwords you had to change?
Oh God, I couldn't even tell you. My password manager it's kind of like my phone. I'm the type of person who has like 14 folders with everything grouped all together. I'm sure they make medication for it, but I just haven't crossed that bridge yet.
Okay. All right, Glenn, do you have anything?
I know.
Do you have anything that requires medication?
Not yet. I think detoxing is a great idea. It's funny that as you told this story, I remember when I first started with Defendify, kind of going through that same process. Like it was like a light went off, like learning about password keepers and like 2FA, and like you can just set all this stuff up so easily. And I'd never really had any bad like account breaches or anything like that. I think maybe my Facebook was hacked once or something like that. But as I began to think about it, I'm like, well, there's the possibility that like I've been, I know I reuse passwords all the time. I use the same one my whole life. I just changed like a couple numbers and like put an exclamation point on the end, and even at previous employers, I would, require me to update my password like every 30 days, and I would change it from a 19 to a 20. And then in 30 days, it would let me put it back to 19, and I would just kind of play that game and go back and forth. But learning about the inherent risks and in the fact that like just keep having a password keeper in 2FA like significantly reduces the risk of any of your accounts ever being breached by most cyber attackers. Like it was kind of a no-brainer. I was reading something. It was like an older article that Microsoft has like 300 million, account takeover attempts a day, and that 99.9% of those could be eliminated. Account takeovers could be eliminated with just setting up 2FA, and that 0.01% is just cyber attackers that have sophisticated means of getting into accounts that can generate codes and stuff like that, I guess. But it's super slim. So yeah, for me, it was kind of a similar detox of slowly, setting accounts up with 2FA and a password keeper. And like you, Shanna, I think I still come across accounts every now and then. I've even gotten my wife to do the same. She was using a password that had her name in it up until I met her. So
I flew to Vegas for a show, and by the time the plane had taken off from the Portland Main airport, the woman sitting next to me had already been educated about passwords, downloaded a password manager, set up her initial account, and was like ready to rock and roll by the time we were wheels up.
You couldn't even wait until you were in the air to kind of reach over and say, hey, how are you?
She started the conversation right away, like, business or personal. I said, business, what do you do? Cybersecurity. She's like, talk to me about passwords. And I was like, ooh, yes.
Sucker.
Don't mind if I do.
All right. I need to ask the two of you, do you know, and I probably didn't explain to you how to look at the comments in the chat. You won't be able to respond, but you can see we've got people. Chris earlier was the one that asked about the spiked eggnog. Patrick, thank you for saying that the audio was more than good enough, although we'll see.
Patrick, you're very kind.
When I go to actually, publish this, we'll see how it is. But do you guys know Grace or Thomas that VOH and VOI? Do either of you know what that means?
I have no idea what that means. What?
Okay.
What?
Are we getting podcast bombed?
We might be. We might be. I mean, not that my podcast is very popular, but again, a first, if that happens, this is the first time that's happened. So Shanna, you have been a good luck beacon for 2 firsts on this show.
Sorry. Did you say good? I think my mic's cutting. I can't hear. My speakers are going now.
Yeah. Is this thing on? So we'll see. I don't know. It's as long as it's not a link.
Ooh, yeah, click it.
I can put the user in timeout. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Put them both in timeout. See. All right. So we have talked around Defendify. So let's do this. Let's take a break for the news. We did the commercial spot earlier for our presenting sponsor, Net Ally, and our live stream sponsor, Computers Done Right. But what we have not done is in the news. So I'm sure that most of the world was affected yesterday as the Amazon AWS US East 1 cloud region went down in North Virginia, disrupting some of Amazon's own applications and a slew of third-party services that rely on AWS. I'm not going to get into all of them, but we know that this is not the first time AWS and its customers have suffered at the hand of technical glitches. So what does this mean for you? Well, it means that you need to start looking more at how to adopt robust disaster recovery and mitigation plans. This might include third-party backups. This might include looking at another alternative to hybrid cloud so that you're not reliant on AWS as your cloud solutions. I myself will be looking at one that I met at ASCII called CAB, and we'll see how that goes. Now, Florida man. I have not done a Florida man story in the last couple of weeks because of time constraints, topic constraints, but I'm doing it tonight, and I have to do it in a way that's a little different than in the past. Usually I ask my guests to pick one or two, and I usually have 2 separate stories, but tonight I have 4 stories, folks, all focused on the same thing. Broward County is where I am living, the city of Fort Lauderdale in Broward County, and this time of year, the Broward County Fair has just finished. So I'm going to read or tell you about 4 stories. So as the fair was starting, it runs for 3 weeks, gunfire erupted as 2 carnival employees and a 90-year-old woman living in a nearby facility were affected by the 2 men were fighting over a woman, not the 91-year-old woman, but the 2 carnival employees were fighting over a female employee, and the one carny pulled out a gun, chased the other one, and fired shots, and one of the shots traveled some 300 yards into a nearby senior living facility and struck a resident. So that happened as the fair opened. What also happened is that the county fair's banana derby which is basically monkeys riding dogs, were protested by the Defense for Parkland something. And they basically protested for the fair to stop this. I can't even, this is just ridiculous here. So it's the most popular attraction where monkeys ride dogs dressed as jockeys in satin tops around the bend and down the final stretch, with an occasional pit stop for a treat along the way. So that was protested. And so animal rights activists shut that down. Then they shut down another thing. They shut down a pony ride by Hugo Tom Liebel, a longtime circus owner whose elephant Nosy was confiscated 4 years ago after being beaten with bull hooks and forced to give rides. So Liebel charged $8 a ride, and animal activists said that they were tipped off by fairgoers concerned about the conditions of ponies and horses, and claimed that the animals had to walk in circles for hours while carrying kids and adults on their backs. That happened. And then, of course, the final thing, the Broward County Fair is being ordered to stop using the name Broward County Fair. The original Broward County Fair has operated in Broward since 1976, and a for-profit group formed several years ago with the same name and pays the original group the rights to run it, says that they want to change the name because they believe people are being misled because they don't know which fair they're attending. So those are 4 things that happened here in Florida with the Broward County Fair. I will have links to all 4 stories. And just another time for a Florida man.
I don't even think Maine can compete.
I know I went down a Florida man rabbit hole today and yesterday, and I'm just like, man, like we don't have anything like that up here in Maine, but it was entertaining nonetheless, some of the stories. But
yeah, those aren't even the good stories. All right, I'll give you guys a chance to respond a little bit later in the show, but let's get back to Defendify. So we got on and we started talking about situations and stories and things that we ran into, but let's talk about who Defendify really is and why should we be using them. Who'd like to go first?
I'll let Shanna start.
I actually think I heard about them in a Reddit thread. I was going to book a demo with them. Can you tell me more? Our tagline as a company is all-in-one cybersecurity. I mean, obviously that we're not entirely everything all-in-one because a lot of people already have some protections in place. But as I mentioned earlier, if you think about what a cybersecurity consultant would come in and do for tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars in an engagement, we have the same type of structure. We've just digitized it, we've automated it, and it's all under one roof, one platform, one budget request for your clients. You're not going back every quarterly review and selling them each single point solution, and it's automated, so you don't get into that situation where you have an awareness training program but you launch it twice a year, like me going to the gym. And everything from assessments and testing to user training and awareness, all the way up through full breach detection and response. So I like the fact that it's scalable. So as your client cyber posture grows, their program through the platform can grow as well. And it's really customizable and automated. Yeah.
All right. And there's a ton of different components. So there's several different levels you can get. I will say this, I have signed up and I have pretty much done a vulnerability scan for every one of my clients. And I think that's probably one of the quickest and easiest things to do to show them the need for upping their security game. So tell us real quickly, let me go down. So vulnerability scan, the cybersecurity health checkup, and then you mentioned the awareness training. Which of these things do you think is probably the most important to get started with?
I prefer the cybersecurity health checkup.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
It's kind of like for a lot of our partners, they've been saying the same thing to their clients over and over and over again. You know, you need this, you need this, you need this, and sometimes they're just getting met with that, like, yeah, sounds complicated and expensive. This is kind of like, you know, a backup for all these things that you're saying already. It's, you know, I'm putting your answers and the things that you're currently doing into this, you know, completely objective third-party tool based on all of these widely accepted frameworks, and it's spitting back to me a letter grade, some compliance mapping, recommendations. So it's not just me, you know, the person who makes money off of your risk, or, you know, you just see as trying to sell you some more technology stuff. This is, you know, a third party coming in and saying the same things that I'm coming in. So I love partner success stories where they're like, I told them over and over and over again they need this. We go through your cybersecurity health checkup, and they're like, okay, we should probably do that.
And just so that they know, there's actually 2 cybersecurity checkups that you guys can do. There's a quick one, and then there's the big one.
Full one, yeah. The quick one, I like a lot of times their partners will utilize that as like a selling tool, kind of cover some basic stuff. Ideally, you want to go through that full checkup with them. You know, and I agree with Shanna. That's the best place to start. It gets you a foot in the door, makes that conversation easy with them because you can show them. I think even if you're dealing with someone that's maybe non-technical and trying to present these solutions to them, it's done so in a way on this health checkup that's easy for them to understand. There's a letter grade, which we all know what that means. You know, if they know they need to meet, you know, NIST or HIPAA or any of those compliance frameworks, that maps to that, you know, which makes it easy for them to see what they need to do to check those boxes. And then, you know, writes out a recommendation for those areas where, you know, there are gaps in security, you know, so again, easy for them to see. And like Shanna said, again, it's just kind of solidifying what you've already told them in the past, but now they're able to see it, you know, on a report with a tool, you know, from a third party. And I think that resonates with a lot of clients.
And this is something that you can do ahead of an audit or assessment to kind of prep them and say, look, these are the things that they're going to be looking for. So why don't we start addressing them ahead of time and getting you on board with this? Would that probably be the best way to utilize that?
It's like an SAT prep class. It's not the actual, you know, certification or audit or anything like that, but it's, you know, assessing your readiness for something like that, if that's, you know, a requirement that you have. I also like to, because I have legal in my background, so I operate a lot under the CYA mentality, and I think it's a great document to be able to have. You can download it in a PDF to just present, or you can download it in a Word document version and then make that a living document so that, you know, when you have those ongoing conversations with your clients, you can take all of the recommendations, put some notes in about what they said. So if they say, yeah, I understand that that's important, but it's just not something I can swing right now. We're just recovering from the pandemic, you know, whatever it might be, you can work with them and go through, okay, we're going to do this in Q2 of 2022, you know, discuss with client, doesn't see it as a risk, whatever that conversation looks like, you've got the documentation and, you know, an ongoing living document of these conversations that you've had. I mean, I hope that you never have a client trying to recoup some losses from a data breach, but if they don't have a good cyber insurance policy, or they've recently been told they're uninsurable, or they're going to look to recoup some of those losses in the event of a breach, and they're going to immediately go to the person that does their technology. And then you're going to find yourself in a sticky situation where you're explaining to a non-technical judge or a non-technical jury that, yeah, so there's some computer stuff that I do that's covered and some cyber stuff that's not covered, and no, I cannot help you set up your iPhone.
So let me ask the question that I know somebody's going to ask, and somebody probably has already asked you guys. but is there a chance that companies will try to use this health checkup as their audit?
I mean, you could try. We do see some companies, depending on one of the big driving factors that we're seeing right now. I never thought 3 years ago when I joined Defendify that it would be cyber insurance that would be, making people scramble to implement additional controls in place, but grateful for that. If they're getting questionnaires from their cyber insurance provider, or they're getting third-party vendor risk assessments, the large enterprise organizations are getting really smart since Target and all the other ones. So if they're getting slapped with those 17-tab Excel spreadsheets about their cyber posture or what controls they have in place, a lot of the times there's, kind of like quick workaround. If it's, have you done a recent risk assessment and will you provide that? So a lot of people use the Defendify Cybersecurity Health Checkup to say, yes, we've done a recent risk assessment. Here it is. And that way they don't have to go through all 17 tabs of the Excel doc.
All right. Well, the reason I asked that is because I have upgraded 2 of my clients because their insurance company said, you need to do these things if we are going to renew your cybersecurity insurance. And, one of those things is an audit or whatever, but I've made them pay other companies to do it. Whereas now I could probably at least do some of that using the Defendify tools.
Yeah, as long as it's like an assessment and they're not, trying to have like a, SOC 2 auditor or a
Right.
CMMC auditor or something like that come in, then yeah, absolutely they can.
Yeah, this
do
is
it as,
this is not going to be for my HIPAA clients or anything like that. This will be for, I've got, some clients that they really don't have compliance, but they want to get security. So, the vulnerability scan is something that I can use to test against their firewall and their website and make sure that they're protected. Getting them some of the other modules that you've got in here where you can actually do
the stolen password scan teaser tool is a really fantastic one, because you're not completely spilling the jelly beans in the lobby by giving them like a full list of every compromised password they've ever had in clear text, which I've heard from a lot of partners has not gone over very well. It's like a fart in church, like showing somebody their clear text password that you don't, like how do you have that? That's weird. So it piques the curiosity enough because you can run somebody's email address and it will give you how many dark web hits for that particular email and the time since their most recent exposure, like individually. And then it also gives the entire domain. So I might only have, 3 hits on my business email, and the most recent one was 6 months ago. But when I run my entire domain, I might have 129, and the most recent compromise was a week ago. So it peaks it just enough for them to go, well, how do I find out what that 129 is?
Well, let me show you.
Exactly. That's
Exactly.
the first report. And then we also give you ongoing monthly credential monitoring. So, Marvin, that personal email address that you had compromised 6 months ago, you're not going to find out about it 6 months down the road because gosh only knows what they've done in 6 months since that compromise. You're going to know about it immediately and be able to go in and change it.
Yeah. So let me kind of do a sidebar here because we brought up insurance, and that has probably been the biggest boom for us in the last 6 months is these insurance companies doing this. You guys have had to address that a lot recently. I know that you've had a blog, or actually a few different blogs, but one of them was titled Why You Could Be Denied Cyber Insurance Policy Coverage. You've had a couple of, I don't know if they're webinars or stuff where you've talked about the perfect storm for cyber insurance. So what's the landscape looking like for you guys in cyber insurance?
It's definitely a hardening of the market, which I think is a good thing. Before there were some of these cyber insurance providers were just saying like, okay, how many locations do you have? How many employees do you have? What's your annual revenue? Here's a policy, which they have, 70% loss ratios, a lot of the big insurance providers recently. So they're starting to go, oh, this is not a profitable line of business. A lot of them have even stopped carrying the cyber liability coverage. So I think the hardening of the market is necessary. I like the fact that it's a contributing factor here. I look at it much like my car insurance. So if I'm, not taking precautions to be a good driver day to day, if I, don't drive somewhere around the speed limit, wear my seatbelt. If I get in the car half in the bag and drive down the highway the wrong way with my headlights off, yeah, I'm probably going to expect that I'm going to have an accident at some point. So I should be taking these precautions. And I like the fact that it's a driver right now, because they're just taking small steps to reduce their risk instead of just, relying solely on a cyber policy when something does go sideways. I mean, we've talked to customers that had a ransomware incident, called their cyber insurance provider on day one, and their network was still down for a month. We've talked to companies where it took 2 weeks for a representative from the forensic and investigation team provided by the cyber insurance provider to even fly up to Maine and do an investigation for them.
I know a couple of those. One of my partners, I guess, in the community, a cohort, had to deal with a situation where one of his clients were down for a month because of a ransom attack. My stepson, his company, they're just a packaging company. They create the boxes and stuff and all of that. They were down for almost 2 weeks over a cyber attack. And it's just amazing the impact that these things are having. And, I don't know, I haven't asked them about, who paid for stuff or things like that. But those are the things that the insurance companies are looking at and saying, look, we can't pay for everything unless you guys are protecting yourselves.
Yeah, and nor should they. You can't really be expecting to not take any kind of precautions and then just rely solely on that cyber policy. We've also seen situations where people thought they had a cyber policy, but really all they had was just a rider on their general E&O, or they did not. They were left holding the bag a little bit in that situation. Right. We do have a comment here that says, any thoughts on what makes a good cyber insurance policy or what makes a bad one?
Yep. I was going to ask you, because I don't know if you guys get asked that question, but I'm sure you have experience in dealing with it. So what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of this goes back to, as we talked about earlier, with the risk assessment and going through the cybersecurity health checkup. I don't think you can start really any kind of cybersecurity discussion without first kind of identifying all the W's and the H. If you don't know what you're trying to protect and you don't know who you're trying to protect it from and how they would likely come for that type of information and how much trouble you're willing to go through to protect that, it's very difficult to start thinking about a cyber insurance policy. So, putting the cart before the horse, you want to make sure that you've done either for yourself or for your clients kind of that, even just a basic threat modeling exercise to identify what you're protecting and from whom and how they've come there. Then you've got really good questions to be able to ask that provider. So if you've identified that, business email compromise, phishing attacks are a common threat or something that's likely to impact your client or yourself, then you've got questions to be able to ask that underwriter or that insurance agent specific scenarios. You want to make sure, if one of my employees falls for an email that says that I'm traveling and asks them to send out $100,000 wire and they do it, like, will this policy cover it? Ransomware exclusions, you want to go through those particular scenarios that you've outlined in that threat modeling exercise and say, what does the coverage look like for this? There's also, especially in the MSP space, and then depending on who your clients are working with, you want to look at not only first party coverage, but also third-party coverage as well. And I know there's a lot of specific tech policies for MSPs and service providers. You want to make sure that you're getting the right kind of policy.
Yes, and that goes for us as MSPs as well. That was, again, we got our cybersecurity insurance 2 years ago and had to go through a nice process, and we actually upgraded it last year to cover us because of our exposure to our clients. And I think if you see me looking up here, I was trying to look at, because I actually have it posted up there. So ours is a $2 million policy that we have. And Yeek.
Awesome. Now the cyber attackers know exactly how much to extort you for, because they're actually going in, like in ransomware situations, and looking for your details of your cyber insurance policy, so they know like what your coverage limits are and how to like just snake right in under that limit, so that it makes more sense that the insurance company says, "Yeah, we'll just cut our losses and pay it," compared to the other potential damage. So they're getting smart. It's equal parts fascinating and terrifying to me.
Stop sending PII out over unencrypted email, encrypt your data.
I found this t-shirt that I want.
You what?
I said I found this t-shirt that I really want that says, "Dance like no one's watching, encrypt as if everyone is."
Really? So where did you see the t-shirt? Why didn't you just go ahead and buy it?
Because I don't remember where I saw it. Remember the first 20 minutes of this call?
Do I?
I'm a hot mess,
I'm trying to figure out how I can.
Safe.
All right. Shanna, Banana.
Yes, Uncle Marv.
You have a phrase that I heard you say, eat your own cooking.
Yes. I like that better than eat your own dog food, because I don't know anybody who eats their own dog food.
No.
But I think that everybody should kind of be doing, like, they should be practicing what they preach. I mean, I've had calls with partners where, they're typing the same, like, dog's name, birth year, password in, for when they're setting up their initial login to Defendify, and I'm going, you should probably be doing what you tell your clients to do. Also, if I told you guys, like, "Oh, Glen and Marvin, I've got this amazing multivitamin and you should definitely try it out. You're going to feel amazing. You're going to have so much energy. You're going to be bouncing off the walls. Your mind's going to be as sharp as it was when you were 20." And you were like, "Oh, I'm really, really interested in this. Do you take it?" And I was like, oh, no, I don't take it. How much confidence would you have in that?
I was going to say, I should have you on my Healthy Living podcast if that were true, but now that you don't take it, not so much.
Yeah, probably the last person you want on a Healthy Living podcast.
Really?
Yes. I will be having Chardonnay for dinner after this.
Maybe that'll be a post-show thing. All right. So, Glen, let me get back to you. And before we have to end off here, I wanted to ask you, so we've, Glen and I have been, how many conversations we had in the last 2 weeks? Like 4 or 5?
I think like 4 or 5, yeah.
It has been I should say, one of the most interesting onboardings that I've done, and one of the most involved, hands-on, and good conversation also. You made a comment that kind of stuck with me, that I was probably one of the few or the most prepared in doing this onboarding. I just had to ask you, is that really true?
There's a spectrum.
So I'm on the high spectrum.
You're on the high spectrum, yeah. And I think what makes a good onboarding is if you're seriously looking at a tool as a solution, like what are you waiting for? Right out of the gates, you should be implementing it with your clients and utilizing the tools in there. That's why you got started. I think if an onboarding does kind of go a little bit more slowly, it's just maybe they're just afraid to they're overthinking it. Well, I have to have a conversation with the clients first, and then they have to give me the okay to do this. And I'm like, well, what's stopping you from doing the cybersecurity health assessment right out of the gates for them? That's something you should be doing anyway. That'll uncover needs, and maybe it opens up that conversation so you can start utilizing some of the other tools with your client. But yeah, right out of the gates, before we even really had a chance to begin onboarding, you were putting clients in there, familiarizing yourself with the platform, and it kind of allowed us to focus on kind of the important details of being successful right out of the gates. So yeah, no, you definitely made my job a little bit easier. So
yeah, that's what I like to hear, among other things. So let's let's do this. we need to start to wrap up the show here, but I want to let people know Defendify.com, and go there and check them out. There is some free things that people can do. So it's not like you're going to have to sign up and do a trial and it's only for 14 days. Tell us what we can do for free and get ourselves entrenched in Defendify.
Yeah, right out of the gates, you can sign up for our Essentials package, which is 3 of our tools that you can use ongoing. It's not a time frame set on that, but that includes their Cybersecurity Health Checkup, which is a comprehensive questionnaire that we talked about. It maps to NIST and GDPR and HIPAA. It gives you a letter grade and shows you where you stand on a lot of different areas. You get a vulnerability scan for one external IP, and that's ongoing, 1 a month. And then also you can get our threat alerts, which are aggregated news articles, of the, ongoing threats that are out there in cybersecurity. And if you go to defendify.com and look for Essentials, you can just plug in some basic information, get your login, and start using it right away.
And you said that there's no timetable on that.
You can keep it forever. The hope, though, is that you see the value in those 3 tools and want to learn more about the others. And a lot of times the progression is, you start with the Essentials, you like what you see, and you want to learn more, so you set up a demo. Or you can go the other way and set up a demo and then sign up for the Essentials to try it, and then decide that you do want to move forward with using more of the tools.
Or you can just look at everything on the website, and then a year and a half will pass, and then all of a sudden you have a client that needs a penetration test yesterday, and then you'll call us.
That happens too.
That happens.
Yeah, occasionally. Yeah, I just out of the blue, someone I talked to a year ago. Yeah, I think we're ready. I'm like, all right, let's do this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I can say that I'm already, like you said, utilizing a lot of the stuff. There's a ton of stuff in here, folks. So if you go and sign up, do the free stuff first, but there are, 13 total tools in here that people can use.
Yep.
Lucky number 13.
Lucky 13. Yeah. Kind of like you coming on the podcast, right, Shanna?
Yes, exactly 13 minutes late. But yes, I love our free tools, because it's not a super huge high pressure sales pitch. We're not going to put you into a soul crushing 82-year contract or anything like that. We want to continue to earn your business on an ongoing basis. And I always say to people that free is my second favorite 4-letter word that starts with F. So that makes it even better.
And on that note,
well, the first one's food, by the way.
Oh,
for inquiring minds. Yes.
Okay. Glenn, you didn't know that?
That's embarrassing. My mind went elsewhere. I was like,
oh my God.
Free food, done.
Oh, free food. That's a double F.
Yep.
Double F.
Speaking of F, what about Florida Man? Do we get to Florida Man now?
You want to get to Florida Man? Let's get to Florida Man. You guys. So this is probably a first. I've never had 2 people more excited to challenge Florida Man than you 2. So what you got?
Glenn, you're first.
I'm first. Hopefully it's not the same one. So
it won't be, I guarantee it.
Yeah. So it was a little bit of a tricky one, but it's probably one of the most bizarre stories, in my opinion, to come out of Maine. And it happened like 5 years ago, but this guy, Christopher Knight, at 1986, decides he's just going to fall off the face of the planet, disappears. His parents don't even report him as missing. Nobody ever hears from him again. All the meanwhile, for years in this area around this lake area, just north of where I live, every year there are just these burglaries and camps that are maybe left over the winter that people, from out of state have, they'd come back and they would notice things missing, food in the pantry missing. And sure enough, there was a lake meeting, with all the people that live around the lake, and, they took a poll of if anyone had been broken into, and 75 out of the 100 people had been broken into at some point throughout the year. So literally it became kind of a legend, of this, something was going on in the area. But then back in like 2015, someone reported a strange man breaking into one of the summer camps, and they caught this guy, Christopher Knight. And apparently for 27 years, he had no interaction with people, hadn't spoken a word to someone, had been living in the woods in a homemade like tarp lean-to type thing through the middle of Maine winters, solely surviving on the things that he could steal from camps. He'd steal propane tanks, he would steal food, obviously, supplies, and they finally caught him. And I think he did like 7 months in jail, and I'm not sure what he's up to now, but just to me, kind of one of the most bizarre stories of anyone in Maine. Just true hermit. They actually, he's called the North Pond Hermit is what they named him. I was going to
say, that's I looked it up here, North Pond Hermit documentary that they're putting together 7 years after his capture.
Yeah.
All right.
Of course someone's making a documentary, right?
Of course. You got to, I mean, come on, we have Tiger King. Come on.
I am extremely grateful for Tiger King because I lived by myself in the beginning of the pandemic and in a tiny little apartment. I was starting to go really stir crazy. So that kind of kept me sane for like, I don't know, 2 days while I binge watched it. And then all the memes that came out after just kept me thoroughly entertained after that. Yeah. So I was very, very grateful. So I'll share the my article. So I figured that Glen was probably going to take like the one halfway decent Maine man story that we have, and we live in different parts of the state because we're a fantastic distributed workforce. So I'm like, a stone's throw over to New Hampshire, and Glen's up writing policy in the state capital. So I go a lot, just a hop, skip, and a jump over the border into Dover, New Hampshire, because I grew up on like a border town. I go down to a pinball bar down there and play all the time because Adam's family for life. And yeah. I went to college down in Washington, D.C., and a lot of my friends really didn't even know where Maine was. So one of them was asking like what the closest like bigger city that I lived by was. So I said Dover, New Hampshire. So she Googled Dover, New Hampshire, and the very first thing that popped up was an article about it starts off, says it was definitely a low-tech, low-speed attack, police say. Stephen W. Coleman, 37 at the time, this is a while ago, allegedly threw 2 Molotov cocktails made from Budweiser beer bottles, gasoline, and rags at his ex-girlfriend's house Saturday night, according to Foster's Daily Democrat newspaper of Dover, New Hampshire. Rest in peace, Foster's. Neither bomb exploded. The rags never caught fire, a crucial part of making a Molotov cocktail, and it gives you a search for that, which I find entertaining. But the gas fumes stank up the street so badly that 2 neighbors had to go to the hospital. Dover police quickly showed up to find Coleman calmly smoking a cigarette nearby, a 3rd beer bottle in his jacket pocket. A police cruiser flipped on its lights, and Coleman gunned the engine of his riding lawnmower. The leisurely chase wound over several streets of the New Hampshire town until a 2nd cruiser blocked off the lawnmower's escape. In addition to the 3rd bottle, the report didn't specify whether it held gasoline or the original Budweiser. Coleman was found to be wearing rubber gloves and carrying a book of matches. Police booked him on charges of resisting arrest, reckless conduct, and disorderly conduct. He was also slapped with criminal trespass for violating an order barring him from City Housing Authority property.
All right.
So that was my New Hampshire.
That works. The only thing I have to say is that you guys had to go back years.
Yeah, they're not current.
We did.
Years to find this stuff. You do a search for Florida Man, and you can get 5 to 6 stories a day.
Give us a break, Marvin. We just got print news up here, okay?
Right, and we only have about 1 million people here, so just by sheer numbers, you're likely to have more knuckleheads down there than we do up here. So
we have not been blessed by Johannes Gutenberg in the invention of the printing press. It's just now making its way up to Maine.
Well, you know what happened is we have so many of you people coming down to Florida.
Yes, it's like our convict colony. We send them away. It's the new Australia.
All right. So, John, hello, sir, is our patron that is sponsoring our live feed just asked about the link for your services. I have put those in the chat for both the YouTube and the Facebook. Defendify.com. Head over there, sign on to get a demo. And again, you don't have to purchase anything right away. Do the free services, get your fill, see what you can do. And I think it'll be a good addition to your stack. I've certainly added it to mine. We're not going to talk cost, but very cost effective. Well, the free stuff, yes.
John said, did you call them you people? Yes. Yeah, Festivus is coming up, so.
Festivus for the rest of us.
I do have a Festivus sweater, so I think that's like slightly cooler than the dance as if no one's watching and crypt as if they all are.
And Del Boca Vista is not far from me, so come on down.
Yes. Is there good scuba diving down there? Because I'm in.
Yeah, we got that too. We got
Next
it all
time I'll
here
just
in
come to
Florida.
the studio. Then I won't have technical difficulties and be late.
Yes, this will be an invitation to come down, do an in-studio podcast with me here, and things will be fine.
She'll find a way. Right? She'll find a way to be late or not be able to get over there. Her Uber won't
beach,
show up.
I guess. That's what'll happen. Is it's stuck at the beach.
I was attacked by a shark.
And then you'll be the Florida man story.
And by the way, I just want to tell Chris Webb about the spiked eggnog. I just learned a couple weeks ago, thank you, Kat Freeman, about coquito, which is a Puerto Rican eggnog, and it's amazing.
Oh.
Yes.
We definitely need to talk about that, but we are going to do that in the post show. So let's go ahead and end off the official podcast now. If you are watching, stay with us through the break here, and we will come back and chat about all that. Again, thank you for listening, watching, downloading, and subscribing to the show. You have been listening to Podnuts Pro with my new best friends, Shanna and Glen, success managers at Defendify, something that everyone should look to add to their stack. Any last words, folks, before we end off?
Shanna doesn't have any last words.
I've got all the words.
She's probably drinking. That's probably, we can't see her.
Oh, you may have to wait until the post show.
Oh, okay.
I'm locked and loaded, though. I'm ready.
Well, then let's get on to the post show, folks. Thank you very much for watching again and or listening. Remember, 2 more shows before we end off this year. Next week, Kramer Snuggs. Great conversation we're going to have with him. And December 22nd, the final show of the year, our holiday podcast party. I can't tell you who's going to be on. We're going to have probably 5, 6, or 7 so guests. And that will be a show where we will have some eggnog, some Christmas music, and we will chat and hang out and reminisce about a great year here on Podnuts Pro. I thank you all for your support. We'll be back real soon with another show. But until then, gotta find the closing video. That's what I'm doing. Until then.
Here, let me find it for you.
Holla. And we're back.
Am I still here?
You're still here.
I made it.
Shanna's drinking now.
Oh, I need to go get a drink.
I think that's the problem. I waited.
And Chris, you spike your eggnog with moonshine.
Ooh,
I see.
yeah.
I'm gonna go with Western Virginia.
No, actually,
No.
Chris lives just north of that place you don't want to talk about.
Ah.
Pensacola?
Well, he's not from Pensacola. He's from Alabama.
Oh, Alabama's okay.
Just not lower Alabama.
Yeah. Like the Alabama annex is like, you know. Just kidding.
Yep. I
There
will.
was some good time. I got my
I will
dog
be at-
there. So
You got your
one
dog?
good
What
thing
dog?
came from there. I have a 15-year-old German Shepherd mix. So she's a crotchety old wench. She's the best.
The dog, right?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, Chris, you know what? I didn't talk about the fact that this week I will be flying to Atlanta. That's a couple of hours from Chris. I didn't, I should have told people. So I will be traveling. The wife is already up in Georgia. And as most of you know, every year her family travels from Ohio and Carolina all to Georgia. They have a cabin in the mountain. She goes up. She's been up there since Monday, and I will fly in Friday. Although this time I'm flying in and will be doing Friday morning in Atlanta before heading up to the mountain. I'll do a couple of hours of work from the hotel, and then I will venture and meet some people that are in the Alabama area who have always complained that I never stop in and say hello to anybody or meet anybody. So this year I said, you know what? I will make a special effort to find time and put together a lunch meeting. And so far, only 2 people have taken me up on it. I guess it'll work, and we'll build it up as we go. But I will be having lunch in Atlanta on Friday. So if you are in Atlanta and have not reached out to me to let me know that you can come by and say hello, do that. After lunch, I'll be heading up to the mountain where there may or may not be internet. I
sounds
will
lovely.
have to wear a coat.
Uh-oh.
Actually, let me rephrase that. I will wear a sweatshirt and a jacket because I don't own a coat.
It snowed here in Maine today.
Yeah, Glen and I talked about that again. You weren't here for that. Sorry.
It's okay.
All right. How cold was it for you?
I didn't go outside.
Uh,
70 degrees,
Too cold to go outside?
except in the basement. Basement's a little cold. I just got a wood stove down there, so hopefully it heats everything up. So the other day was the first day I got her choochin'.
It was 89 here, almost a record high.
Ooh,
Yep.
yeah, that's hot.
yeah, I'll be.
It's not hot.
See, listen, we here in Maine, it's beautiful because we have all 5 seasons up here. So we're very blessed.
5 seasons.
Yes, we have almost winter, still winter, mud season, and road construction.
Yeah,
All right.
some Maine humor
So-
there.
So when are you going to make it down to Florida?
I'll be down there.
Well,
in
I've got a layover in Atlanta on Friday first.
Okay. But you won't leave the airport, will you?
Right, you just have to wait for me to get there.
Okay.
I'll be
Glenn, you
down
said you're going
there.
to be down?
I'll be down in I think February. I don't. My wife has like an all-week work conference where she works for a different company, but they put her up in a hotel room, and I can tag along and just. I think the ticket down there is like $100, so I'm like, yeah, I'll work down there for the week, and after work I'll go out and not have to deal with winter up here and go to enjoy some sunshine, hopefully. So
Can you say what city you'll be in?
I think it's Orlando.
Okay.
So
That's 3 hours for me.
yeah, it's It's a little ways.
I'll probably be over in the Tampa area in February. There may be a podcast meetup over there, and got some clients over there, so I'll be on the white sand part of the state.
I like it over there. I think I like it. I usually spend time in Tampa if I go down, but I don't know. I've done Miami too. I think I like Tampa better than Miami.
I think most people do. All right, so Shanna, I know that we didn't hit all the usual highlights for you guys, but we do enough on Defendify, getting all the features and topics out there?
Yeah, it's okay. I need a do-over anyway, so.
I was going to suggest that, but I didn't want to. Yeah, I want to think about it first and figure out how we can do this. Do we have to wait till after winter or still winter?
Oh no, I got a generator in the basement. We're good.
Okay.
I'm prepared.
You're gonna turn it on before we start? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
All right. So what do you think the problem was today? You just bad connection? I mean,
No, it was so weird because I was in the waiting room and everything, and then all of a sudden it kicked me out of like the camera, and then it kicked me out of everything, and then it was telling me that another application had my camera open, which it didn't because I literally shut everything down before this call. When I went in everywhere you could possibly imagine, I went into my actual like camera settings. I went into the browser settings. I went into everything. I Googled StreamYard camera issues. I, called IT people I knew. I'm just kidding, I didn't do that. I restarted my computer. I logged back in. I tried a different browser window. I tried an incognito window. I could not figure out what was going on. Then I just like unplugged my actual camera, my webcam, and then went into the browser again, and it somehow let me in this time. And I was too afraid to try the camera again. So,
all right.
I put makeup on for this, Marvin.
I can't tell.
I know. I was gonna like. I'm not used to seeing you all done up like that. Usually, on our morning meetings.
I reserve it for conferences.
All right, so we'll have to do a do-over. We'll have to.
I should say a round two fight.
Yeah, because this is posting regardless. It's not like
yeah.
we're not gonna redo this again. This is posting and warts and all.
Oh, I burst out laughing in one of our webinars when one of our partners like messaged me a joke on the side based on something that I said, and I told our marketing manager, I'm like, yeah, you can edit that out of the webinar recording before you post it. And he's like, no, I'm leaving it in. Like, that's how you are. Everybody that works with you knows that. I'm like, yep.
Something appealing to like a little bit of spontaneity with webinars and podcasts and no.
Speaking of, I can't say it because we're still live, but Shanna, before we go off, there was one that I listened to that was quite stale that you were on recently.
Which one was it? Was it the cyber insurance one?
Do you want to call them out right now?
Doesn't matter to me.
let me pull it up in my podcatcher. It was, let's see.
Was it a podcast or a webinar?
It was a podcast. And it was Project Login. This is back in April, I think.
Oh, yes. That's a local Maine organization.
That's right. It's the Mainers where they're trying to highlight tech jobs within Maine and get kids interested in high-cost tech jobs, I think is the way they described it.
Yeah, that one was like professional. See, I don't do. Glen, you should have done that one.
Hey, this is Podnuts Pro, so come on now.
Oh. I thought that was Process. It must just be because we have a Canadian co-founder.
Process. You're too far north.
Sorry.
That's not right, eh? All right. So yeah, we definitely can do a round two. I think
Fight.
probably a good thing is once I've done some more of the stuff with my clients, because we've got a couple of the long health checkups to do, and I'm actually having a business review with a client next week. And see
Nice.
if I can get them to do any of the add-on modules that we did not talk about.
All right.
Although I do have to, so Glenn, I asked you about the one client where we have to do the multiple IPs for the vulnerability scanning. So I've got
Yep.
7 locations, and the main location has 5 external IPs. So it looks like I've got to do 11
Nice.
IP things for them. So that's an added cost.
Yep.
And that's the one I'm trying to get with the employee awareness package too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's,
All have stands.
they should all. Yeah. No, for sure.
Unless they're using another vendor, which that's fair enough as
They're
well.
not
They should
using
just have some
anybody.
training.
They're not using anybody.
Yeah, then they definitely need it. I love the stolen password scan teaser. So partners, you can just go to defendify.com/FSPS, which is terrible because all those letters sound the same, but it's free stolen password scan is how you can like remember it. Feels like one of those BBCG, like all the letters sound the same. And then you can run their email in there, and it'll give you a little like teaser of how many compromises they have, and then how many they're for their entire domain. I love that one, showing them that they are targets, and also like the pre-texting emails, like, hey, it's Marvin, are you at your desk? I need a favor. Can you send me your personal cell phone number? I always use that one because so many people get it, and then that just is like a very real and familiar example for them being like, you're already being targeted. If you spend enough time at a barber shop, you're bound to get a haircut.
Hey, what are you saying?
Yeah, exactly.
What are you saying about my hair? So, all right, this is not well, it's tech related only in the sense that I was at a client today, and this is a client that they're moving, so I had to go and do a site visit, and they're splitting. They're actually 2 companies in one. They're splitting, so I've got half the equipment. I've got to go one place, so I had to go there and see who's going where and identify equipment. And the office manager there, this is a client I've had for probably 7-8 years, literally asked me the question, do you cut your own hair? Right after she asked me, hey, do we need to get a new copier when we move? And it was just like, do you cut your own hair? And I turned and looked at her, and I'm like, why would you ask me that? And she goes, oh, I don't know. And as we're walking, she starts rubbing my head. I'm like, okay,
maybe the stress of moving is getting to her. Maybe she's having a mental breakdown, because I will tell you, at one point during the pandemic, I had been isolated for so long that I cut my own hair, and I got on a call with Glen, and I was like, I just cut my hair. I was not okay. If I ever tell you I'm fine or I'm okay, I am definitely not okay. So you should check on her.
So is that what is that? Is that your what's the phrase that they use? Your the little phrase, the danger word.
Oh, my safe word?
Safe word, yeah.
No, wine is my safe word.
Wine is the safe word? That's your safe place, isn't it?
That's what I meant.
Your happy place. Hey, I wanted to ask you guys, you have a remote workforce cybersecurity checklist.
Yeah.
And I meant to ask you guys, is that something that I can share?
Please.
With listeners? That I'll put a link in the show notes that people can go and download that.
Yep.
Because there are still people, though, even though we are 20 months into this pandemic or however long we're into it, are still trying to figure out how to handle this work from home thing. So you guys have a checklist that I found it and I thought, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, we also have another pretty cool document as well, because especially for a lot of organizations who have decided that they're going to stay either in like a fully remote or like a hybrid model, a lot of the times there's still this like cultural adjustment that has to go on so that you can maintain some of your corporate culture and help people feel connected to their coworkers and things like that. So we have the work from home checklist, but we also have another document that is like it was actually something that was made by us originally when we all went distributed, and that was just straight pandemic response. But this was more like just kind of like sanity tips, I guess, with a bunch of Defendify humor in there. I don't think that one is posted anywhere on our website. It was something that after we made it internally, we decided to circulate it out to a bunch of partners because we were like, hey, I wonder if a lot of people are also struggling with this and maintaining their culture and their atmosphere and the fun and like people like me going crazy at home by themselves, needing social interaction. So.
All right. Well, if you send that to me, I'll throw that up there as well for people to go and download. All right. I think we've bored people enough, so I'm going to go ahead and
snoring or.
So I'm going to start the music here, and we'll end off the live show and start signing out. I'm just looking to see. I get text messages through the. Throughout the show. Let me see if they're relevant to here. Looking forward to the live holiday show. Okay, that's what. That's good.
Eggnog.
All right, so Shanna, Glen, stay with me here as we end off here, folks. If you are, looks like we got a few people still watching. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you next week with Kramer Snugs, and of course the week after for the holiday podcast. Thank you to Glen and Shanna, and we'll see you next time. But until then, holla.